Hey, it's Mark, and it's time to start our live show. And so this week we would normally be working on bad apples, and so I've been trying to resolve an issue with Moho, which is the program that I use, and I will show you guys what I'm kind of up against at the moment. So we created these PSD files. I can delete this actually, um, and these are the layered characters. So like the heads, the arms, the I guess in some the hats and the legs and all that kind of stuff are all kind of made into PSD files, and these are what you import into Moho, which is what I have. But I have the debut version of it. Um, and so I created a new document here, and so Mr. Forrest has been trying to help me out, and I actually uploaded a zipped version of one of these files, the PSDs, and he was able to import it into his version of Moho just fine. But if I try to do it, for example with the mother here, I just drag and drop it, and this is one way that he did it. There's actually a way to import it manually as well, but if I do this, you can see that it says invalid Photoshop file, could not read the file, unknown error, file is blank. So I think Ron Cole last week was saying, well, rename it a PSD, and I believe doing this is just naming it PSD, but it doesn't actually change the file extension. So you can see here, the same thing happens. So I've tried a bunch of different things, and I've Googled it, and unfortunately, no luck. So it's a lot of work that we did, and it's really a matter of just trying to figure out what to do with with the program. Maybe I need to update it or delete it and reinstall it, and I can't seem to find my license information on it. I don't know where I saved it. So anyway, I'm gonna try a few other things before 2 weeks is up, which would be the next Bad Apples live show. But so this week, what we're gonna do, we're gonna of course we got a little bit sidetracked because of that, and so what we're gonna do is we're going to talk about color theory in film, which is something that a lot of not too many people normally delve into, but which is kind of an interesting thing, kind of fun, and can actually help you improve your the way that your films come across to an audience on a psychological level. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to get take a look at some of the stuff on our website. So a lot of people are uploading things and asking questions and coming up against certain roadblocks, and so we can we can talk about some of those things, some solutions, or whatever, as well as if you guys are wanting to talk about anything in particular, it will be fair game tonight. Use open with. Well, yeah. See, that's the thing, Ron. It already opens with Photoshop. It's that they are actually the document is labeled as a PSD, and so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's really frustrating because if I can't get it to work, it's just so much work that I've done. It's like I don't want to say it's really wasted, but it's frustrating. And of course, if all else fails, we can do it the traditional stop motion way, because I do have my clay on glass rig, which is already set up, and all I got to do essentially is put the characters on the glass, light it, and get started. Of course, my cat wants to go out right as I start the show, so give me 2 seconds, guys. I'll be right back. So let's see. So I did find a couple of websites that do talk about color and how it relates to film, and how it also relates to how you perceive films. So Radio Guy says, I only just realized Will Vinton died. How do I feel about his death? Well, that's Of course, we were all kind of shocked when that happened. Of course, I was shocked. Yeah, really sad too. I mean, Will Vinton was definitely one of my my heroes in stop motion. So, and I always wanted to work at his studio, and I always wanted to work on a claymation film at that place that they were at in Portland, and which no longer is used for stop motion. Sadly, I mean the whole studio there, is I think they converted it into like a cafe and like office space and stuff. Anyway, so Ron says, can you use a TIFF or a ping instead? Yes, I can, and that's something that Mr. Force mentioned to me. So it's possible that I can just import that, but I'm not really sure. I think he said I had to make like a special group folder for Moho to do that, and so I gotta learn how to do that. If I cannot get the PSDs to work, then that's what we're gonna do. So, yeah, frustrating, but I think it'll work. I think we can get it to work. So the psychology of color and film, movie color scheme cheat sheet is what this is called. And so what this does is it kind of goes through all the overall color schemes that are used in individual shots. And I'm going to say shots. I mean, some films actually have a monochromatic sort of color scheme to them. Some of them, I think The Wizard of Oz is probably the one of the films that would be. I don't know if they actually talk about that in here anywhere. I guess they probably don't. But there's the one scene in Wizard of Oz where Dorothy goes through a door, and on the other side of the door is the world of color, right? And when that was done, that was sort of the like a momentous moment in film history where we were not only transitioning from black and white, which was the standard, into color film, but the directors of photography had to change their whole way of approaching how do you present a film color wise, because like some of the things that they would do, because in black and white you can actually use different colors on things and it would translate a certain way. Like I think some of the makeup that they used on people in the 1940s and 30s, they used like green tones, and it translated as just one shade of gray in a multitude of shades. So it didn't really matter if, like for example, a woman had makeup which had, red lipstick and pink blush and maybe a purple hat or something. Uh, it could be the most drab stuff that was out there and come across to the audience as absolutely normal because you had no way to know that it's an olive drab hat, right? So, color changes everything, and um, the way that the film is perceived now is completely different than black and white. So I think like film noir is one type of film that if you guys know anything about film history, if you ever watched like a gangster film from the 1950s or something, they would use lighting to its fullest effect, and a lot of times they would have really stark lighting on the outside through blinds, and you would see the lines across people's faces, or you'd have a very dark room and then one light in the middle of the room, and then the person kind of walks into the light and their face is revealed. So lighting is one aspect of film that is really important. So if you combine lighting techniques with color techniques, you get a different level of um, emotion that you feel when you see it. So for example, this is all the like the red tones and everything. Let me turn off flux. I'm not really sure if that affects you guys on your end, but that changes the color tone on my screen. It just makes it easier on the eyes if you're using a computer all day. So uh, this should hopefully show up as mostly red tones. So they're attributing love, passion, violence, danger, anger, and power with red. So we have like a samurai film. Actually, I think this is more like Alice in Wonderland or something. These are like cards I think. I don't know really what film this is from. Of course, like a dramatic love scene would be all in red. Then we have maybe a fight choreography here, which the two characters are, the background is what is red. A seductive lipstick scene here. Of course, red lips, and you also notice that the director of photography didn't just have red lips and red lipstick and a red nail, but even the background, which is out of focus, is red. So they're really trying to convey something sexual there, and that's what you're supposed to feel. Same with this image here. Then we have from 2001 Space Odyssey. If you guys recall, the computer HAL is like a red glowing ball in a sphere type of thing. And it's a different feel to it. The vibe of this particular scene would be somewhat of there's danger, like in a submarine when there's a power outage. All the emergency lights are red, and it changes the feel from everything is okay to we have a hole somewhere in the hull, and there's water coming in, and we got the red lights on, and maybe they'll even use audio with like a siren blaring, that kind of thing. So red is used in in a dangerous situation, which is what they listed here on the side as well. Um, So Spastic Pug says the film on the right, which you don't know, is Tim Burton Alice. Oh, it's a Tim Burton version of Alice in Wonderland. I gotcha. I haven't seen that film. I've seen lots of Alice in Wonderland films, but I've never seen the Tim Burton one. All right, and now we go on to Pink. So if I see Pink, I think of like teenage girls, right? I think that's what everybody kind of thinks, because Barbie dolls, young girls, Barbie doll, their clothing, and the cars that you see like in the toy store for girls are pink. Pink and girls seem to be associated, but that, I think, by the way, that's actually a cultural thing. Not many people realize, but if you go to other countries, a lot of men will wear pink, and if you're in the West, it seems kind of strange, unless you're sort of wearing a dress-up suit, and sometimes pink is kind of it's okay for a guy to wear pink in a dress-up suit, but for the most part, it's attributed to women in the West. It's like when I went to the Philippines, my wife is from the Philippines, so I visited there a few times. Guys wear pink like, it's no problem. They don't feel like their masculinity is in danger if they wear pink. It's a weird thing how cultures are like that, but this attributes pink to innocence, sweetness, femininity, playful, empathy, and beauty as well. So, which I guess that would be true, because youthful women, that sort of thing. And then we have dark orange. Well, I think orange in general. A lot of films in Hollywood use this in combination with like blue-green tones, like a turquoise sort of look. There's a lot of web pages that kind of cover that color scheme that Hollywood almost always uses, no matter what the film is, it seems like. So I'm sure you guys have probably seen some of those websites out there, but this is attributed to warmth, sociability, friendliness, happiness, exotic, and youth. So I guess exotic would be like The Lion King, for example, would have a lot of orange tones. So if you've seen that film from Disney, the the desert scenes, the Sahara Desert, I guess, is where that is, and overlooking the sunset and the cliffs, and it's arid and dry. So that's kind of how you would think of, you would see that as exotic again, but mostly if you live in the West, right? If you live in South Africa someplace, or you live in maybe the outback of Australia, well, that's just your everyday life. and youth. I don't really know why they attribute that to youth. Maybe, well, I guess the school bus behind these kids here is orange. Um, I should probably also mention that a lot of colors, if you use, there's different types of colors per color. There's hue, saturation, and um, how bright it is, how much contrast there is in the scene. Like a lot of stuff can play on a color and affect it. So if you have a playroom with kids, a lot of the colors would be very vivid. But if you were in a very dramatic film where, let's say, it's a murder mystery or something, the colors might be more muted. So you might see these colors like this with the kid is very bright and orangey. But here on Mars, this is a more serious film. So there are orange tones, but they are more muddy. They're more mute. This one here, it looks like almost looks like Fantastic Mr. Fox actually right here, a stop motion film. That's kind of funny. I just realized that. So this is more like a it's more of a fantasy type film. But you kind of get this feeling of what is it? What's the word? It's like a country. Well, yeah, you can see what it is. I'll let the visuals speak for me. So then we come down here to yellow. For some reason on my screen, this looks more like yellow with green mixed in with it. It's not really pure yellow. But this one says it's attributed with madness, sickness, insecurity, obsessive, idyllic, and naive. So let's see. So if we were to look at our color wheel here, so yellow is closer to green, right? So I guess that's why they've got green mixed in with the yellows in this shade, because the more closer to green you are, the more uneasy you feel. Like the whole scene looks like vomit almost, right? Or something that's kind of decaying, or just it's unsettling. And I guess so. They've got the Here's Johnny scene, which does have a lot of yellow in it. I would say that's more tan and yellow. The wallpaper does have yellow, but it's not really a predominant color. So there's definitely green tones in there as well. Yeah, I don't know really about these other films, but the general vibe I feel is more attributed to their facial expressions. And there's also a contrast on like this shot here with the woman who's kind of looking at you like she's arguing or just uneasy and mad at somebody and ready to go off. They've got kind of a bluish hue light on her, and it makes her pop in the scene. So your focus might be on her, but your peripheral vision is seeing these kind of uneasy greenish yellow shades, and yeah, it just gives you kind of an uneasy feeling, right? Then we have some Boy Scout troop. Now, a lot of this, the color is one thing, and I don't really think that this was predetermined to have yellow in the shot here to make you feel uneasy. I think the camera angle on this one, being above, looking down, makes them look like they're very vulnerable. So, I don't really know if I agree with this one, because the Boy Scouts do have a lot of yellow on their uniforms, right? So Ron says, I've never understood how or why the digital world changed the primary colors rule of red, yellow, blue to red, green, blue. It still sometimes frustrates me when selecting a color. That's, yeah. I'm not sure, actually. Maybe it has something to do with the digital CCDs, the way that it captures the light. Maybe it's able to capture more data because I know that there is a correlation to how directors of photography do things based on the CCD technology. So that could be have something to do with it, because you can get a much sharper image using certain lighting and colors as well, from what I understand. But I don't really understand it fully myself. But that would be my guess. You may want to look into that. So then we have, of course, green, which, if you think of any sort of sci-fi or like a B movie or something where there's aliens or mutants or something, and there's some sort of toxic waste that has shifted them into another mode of existence. So either they are like zombies or mutants or just generally diseased. I guess is another thing. Like if you think about Frankenstein, you generally think about green. Like Frankenstein's skin would be green. And so this is attributing green to nature, immaturity, corruption, ominous, darkness, and danger. So again, with danger, if you recall, with the red tones, that's also attributed to danger. Like I was saying, if there's a submarine and it's crashing, sinking or imploding, they've got the red lights on. And so we can see here, we have green in this scene, which is sort of, the danger comes more from the toxic aspect in a way. A lot of films attribute toxic waste to being green in color, and I think that's part of our, like I say, our film culture is to see things that way. It's more or less a learned thing. But nature, so there's like relaxing scenes, if there's like a lush jungle, of course it's green. Suburban area is going to be, more green, and I guess it's like a fantasy film. So, excuse me. So Ron says, when I need orange, my instinct from the real world is to mix red and yellow, not red and green, which is the real world would make grayish brown. And Ron says, I think every color can be associated with danger. Yeah, that's true, really. And Spastic Post says, Bakshi's color for Cool World used a lot of blue and green, which made it extremely punk rock in nature. Is that the feel? That's the feel you got from it? Yeah, I guess you could say that. So, of course, we have now this sort of blue tone, which this is more or less, these are different shades of blue. And I think, as Spastic Pug was saying, so you've got this green and blue sort of mixed together to make almost a turquoise. And so, yeah, Ron, that's when you said that you mix, so when you want orange, your instinct is to mix red and yellow, not red and green. Yeah, so I mean, what light gels are you using exactly? I'm kind of curious. Because that's what I would think as well. But so cold here is associated with isolation, or blue is associated with isolation, cold, cerebral, melancholy, passivity, and calm. So I don't know about calm. Like I don't ever associate blue with calm. I mean, maybe if it's a tropical beach with blue water. And Spastic Pug says, I meant American pop. My mistake. Ah, okay. And Ken is saying that the Kung Fu Panda series assigns colors to different characters. Po is yellow, while Snow Leopard is blue, the peacock has red, and the yak is green. How about that? I never really noticed that, actually. I mean, when you say it, it's like, well, yeah, but so that's definitely by design. I wonder if so if Poe is yellow. So this one is attributing madness, sickness, insecurity, obsessive, idyllic, and naive. Um, Snow leopard is blue. Well, I mean, see, I would attribute that more to like from the tropical. I'm not tropical. From the Arctic areas, right, where it's cold. And Ron says, not light gels on the computer. Yellow is not a primary color. Green is considered the primary, and very light green is yellow. Ah, okay. I think my son's going crazy on his Xbox with his friends. I can hear him in here. So then we have so purple or violet is attributed with fantasy, ethereal, eroticism, illusory, mystical, and ominous. So these were some of the films, and I guess if you had, like this is Avatar. You had something like The Matrix here, maybe. Dark Crystal is actually, I think the Dark Crystal used a lot of this color, which mystical would definitely fit into that category. Um, yeah, and again, a lot of this to me, I think, is somewhat taught, right? So fantasy and purple and violet shades and even some pinks goes really great with like orange and yellow flames. A lot of the colors are complementary. So there's I have this one magazine called Dragon from a long time ago, which is actually called The Art of Dragon, and so they would have all these magazine covers for their fantasy, like Dungeons and Dragon themed magazine, right? So they'd had this one cover which had a purple sort of background with a purple dragon, and he's shooting these orange flames at a little knight with a wizard, I think, if I recall. And I can see there's a dragon here, actually, it looks like, carrying this guy off. Looks kind of funny. Um, but, it's a really good color to work with. In fact, my first film, Teddy Bear's Mistake, I used a lot of violet and purple and blues, and then had orange sparks, and it looked great. I think the color combination is really good, but not a lot of people really use it, to be honest. It's not a very common color to be used. So yeah, so those are just some of the colors that they've associated there, but there's more to it. And this particular article is called "How to Use Color in Film: 50 Plus Examples of Movie Color Palettes." And this is on Dissolve.com. So if you guys are wanting to, perhaps Google this for yourself and save it for a future reference, it's probably a good idea. Just to kind of refresh your memory in the future. So it kind of goes into. There's also like this video, which there's like 100 sites that have shared it when I searched on color theory in film. But it says here, how can color tell a story? Simply put, color can affect us emotionally, psychologically, and even physically, often without us being aware. So you might call that like subliminal, the way that you feel. It's a lot like music in film, which sets an emotional tone, through auditory means, and this is more for, of course, visual means. And so it says here, color in film can build harmony or tension within a scene or bring attention to a key theme. When telling a story, colors can elicit psychological reactions with the audience, draw focus to significant details, set the tone of a movie, represent character traits, which I think I think Spastic mentioned that, or no, Ken mentioned how each character is attributed to one color, right? And then show changes or arcs in the story, and that goes back to like what I was saying about Wizard of Oz, where you would have, the black and white reality, which transitions into the color reality, which brings you into a whole different level of excitement and wonder as to what might be in that different kind of world. And I think also Henry Selick used that to good effect. So if you guys are, of course, fans of stop motion, James and the Giant Peach is one such film where so James, of course, he goes into the peach, and when he gets inside, there's the characters inside. So he goes through a tunnel in the peach itself, and when he does so, the colors change, and when he's inside, it's more lively. The colors are more vivid, and then in the real world, when he goes outside, they're more drab. So a lot of films use that, even in stop motion films. Even Nightmare Before Christmas, again, Henry Selick uses that to good effect, where Jack Skellington kind of goes into the tree and goes to Halloween or Christmas Town, and then he goes and transitions into Halloween Town, and the two places are night and day. Halloween is drab and it has more black and white and orange as the predominant colors, and then Christmas Town is all the colors, red, yellow, green, blue, uh, warmth, and like there's a lot of practical lights and effects and things, which you feel drawn into it and safe in that world, and that's all due to the colors. So it says here, as filmmakers, we must choose our film palette carefully to maximize emotional and visceral effect. You can learn how to choose the right color scheme by downloading the Color Theory ebook, which I have not clicked, and it's probably one of those things where they're charging, $3 or something for it, but that might be a smart thing, right? So it says here, the psychological effect of color in films. When chosen carefully, a well-placed movie color palette evokes mood and sets the tone for the film. The three main components of color are, so hue is the color itself, saturation is the intensity of the color, and value is the darkness or lightness of a color. So this kind of goes into on the color wheel. So we have like purple. So the hue would be on the outside. And then the saturation is the intensity. So, this yellow might be less intense, more pastel, or it might be mixed with different shades of colors. So we have orange and yellow kind of mixed together towards the tip here. Then we have more pastel-y colors on the second ring. And value is the darkness or lightness of a color. So obviously in the center, the colors are very dark, and towards the top here, much lighter. So that would be the value. As Bond mentioned in his Color Theory video, many viewers will have predictably similar reactions to certain colors. A strong red color has been shown to raise blood pressure, while a blue color elicits a calming effect. So again, they say that blue elicits a calming effect. To me, I don't know if personally I feel that way. I think it's more, you think of a cold place that's just uninhabitable when you see blue, unless, like I say, it's in certain circumstances. But so Ron says lightsabers are color coded for their meaning. That's true, yeah. And Spastic says, I love colors used on the sets of opera and operettas. That's right, they do use color quite a lot in stage. And he says, one of my problems is I only extend my colors to my characters when I should apply it to my settings more so. Yeah, well, that's where color gels come in. That's why I was asking Ron before what color gels he used. It's just really common to light stuff that way. But he was talking about changing the colors digitally. So there is a difference there. And Ron says, but to get back to what you're saying, I think that, if you can find some color gels online for lighting, like in Hollywood Lights is one site. If you Google that, you can usually find a lot of. Well, actually, let me go back. So Hollywood Lights has been around for a long time, probably over 20 years, and I've bought a lot of my lighting equipment through them when I was younger. So I haven't had to buy lighting equipment anytime, within the past like 15 years. But what I can tell you is they usually give you like a swatch book, I guess they call it, like a color sample book of their color gels, almost like what you would get if you go to a paint store and you want to take their samples home and see what colors would go with maybe your furniture or whatever. If you can get one of those, a lot of times you can actually use those samples to help light your stuff for free, right? Because those are for free, or $5 or something. But those gels over your lights, what normally what you would do is you would take some clothespins and clamp them on there, and you can get anything from gels that are meant to diffuse the light so that it has less of a harsh shadow, to like if you know anything about the color temperature of your light bulbs, and if you want to have a certain color temperature on a certain part of your set, it can get really complicated. But yeah, color gels are really the way to go. Like you should definitely look into those, because it will make a big difference in how people perceive your film. And Ron says, I like what I've always thought about as Star Trek lighting or Tim Hindleband lighting, where the light is two different colors on either side of a scene, which makes it... okay. Yeah, like having a stark contrast. I think what Ron is saying is like, for example, so this color wheel here would be if you have purple, and then the opposite of that color is yellow, or if you have blue, you have somewhat of an orange tone, and then green and orange, darker orange. These are all opposites. So you could, in theory, if you wanted to have a way of causing strife in the minds psychologically of your viewer, you could use those two different colors to that effect, I would guess. And then Ken says, yeah, I have that issue too. Sometimes it's hard to realize what impact you can have on an audience by every choice you make. Yeah, and this is if you notice that they're using the word psychology a lot, because it does play on your psychology, and a lot of that is your subconscious. So you don't even realize that, the opposites of color, or even how bright the scene is, affects your mood in the scene. Like I know a lot of cinematographers will transition from dark scenes to light scenes, and that alone makes you feel like, oh, haven't you ever been to a movie where you've watched a character go through a cave or something, and then the next scene is they see the light, but they're looking at, let's say, the entrance of a cave with the light on the other side, and they're just a silhouette, and it's so bright that you're blinded and everything is kind of blurred, and just doing something like that with a yellow light shining into a bluish lit cave or something, would be the opposites, right? So you'd have blue and yellow, and it would just make you feel like, oh my gosh, we're transitioning into a new chapter of this person's journey in the film. And Ron says, I use colored clear book covers for gels. Really? That's pretty smart. But you're not worried about those burning? And Ron says, my lights aren't very hot. Oh, so a pack of multicolored transparent book covers work great. Yep, that'll work. And Ken says, I use gift tissue paper and LEDs. I hadn't thought about mentioning that. Yeah, I mean, LEDs are a really smart thing to use. And I think I brought this up in the past. I don't know if you guys have gone to, if you go to like any of the, like Verizon or T-Mobile or any of these walk-in phone places, right? They usually have these displays which show the latest gadgets, like light bulbs and stuff that you can control with well, I don't want to say it because I have it right here. Let me turn on mute first. Amazon Alexa. So if you want to, for example, turn your lights on in your bathroom and you want to have the lights purple, you can say, Alexa, turn my lights on in the bathroom and make them red or something, or purple, or whatever you want. Uh, but these lights are actually pretty cool because you can use your phone as well, and you can choose what color you want that light to be. Um, Spastic says, I remember seeing Little Shop of Horrors live, and the whole set was black and white, apart from the plant, which was almost neon green and purple. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like we were talking about how green is used in sci-fi or B movies. It just kind of symbolizes that mutated character that's gonna jump out and get you or something. Ugh, excuse me. And Ron says, I use all LEDs now. There are large panel LEDs on movie sets now too. Wow, that's kind of cool, isn't it? And they don't get nearly as hot. Some of the really bright ones do get hot though, and you got to have a heat sink in there. Ken says, yeah, I've seen that in Filmmakers Workshop a while ago. So, so this one video is about color psychology in film. It's not very long. I'm not going to play it. I want you guys to Google this and say this for yourself. But it says here, for example, wait a minute. This beautiful video by Lily Mitz-Sierra illustrates the psychology behind specific colors in film. For example, in The Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan uses red to represent fear, dread, and foreshadowing, whereas in Pleasantville, Gary Ross uses red to represent hope, love, and sensuality. Color theory norms should be understood by filmmakers, but never seen as a limitation. Yeah, so again, it's like I was saying, I feel cold when I see blue tones, and they said before that it represents feeling kind of a warm feeling, and I just don't see it that way. So these are definitely not set in stone. This is the same graphic I brought up before. So here we have the balanced movie color palette, and we have let me see if I can make that bigger. So monochromatic means like one color is used. Of course, mono means one, right? So monochromatic means you're using one color but different shades. I think somewhere in here they said that like in the Matrix films, that is one of the ways that they lit a lot of the scenes to represent the real world, which is the world where you're kind of in an illusory dimension. Complementary are the opposites. Analogous are, so we have sort of ones, we have from red to yellow, and I guess if we were going to go from green to turquoise or purple to red, also this would all be analogous. Or like ultraviolet, which is not really visible but more or less purplish red. Triad, and I think again like this would be for like a children's film where you have very primary colors and they're very solid. They're not drab, they're not muted, they're very vivid. So that would be triadic. Oh, gotta click back. Oh, speaking of the Matrix, for a brief instant, it disappeared. Scroll down here. And this is what they call balanced colors. So it says, although single recurring colors can hold a deeper meaning, a more fleshed out film palette of colors, aka a color scheme, is most effective in communicating the thematic context. So what they mean by that is like, again, I'll go back to the, I keep going back to it, but Wizard of Oz, where we transition from black and white to color, it's or like I said before, where a guy is going from like a cave out into everything is blue, and then he goes out into the space outside the cave, which is usually bright. The sun is there, it's yellow. So he's like, is it getting a breath of fresh air, and he's transitioning into this new environment. And so that would be like the thematic context. So we know that he's now transitioning to a new journey in his life, or whatever the story involves. So in that case, you would change not just the lighting but the colors, and that would just change the entire feel of everything. And so balanced movie color schemes refer to the harmonious relationship of colors on a color wheel. And a balanced movie color palette creates unity and promotes a cohesive tone. So that's something else to think about, is maybe if you have a theme involving colors, you don't want to change the color theme throughout the entire film too often. You'd want to kind of have an overarching, lighting scheme to bring all the colors that are in there, because of course you can't, have everything monochromatic or one color shade of yellow or green or blue or whatever. Like if you're in a grocery store and it's an adventure film, and you want to have a cohesive lighting scheme, you would do that through just in your post processing digitally nowadays, where you can sort of change the hue and put filters and things like that. But anyways, so here we talk about monochromatic, and monochromatic color schemes come in shades of a single color, such as red, dark red, and pink. They create a deeply harmonious feeling that is soft, lulling, and soothing. So there's not a lot of contrast in these kind of color schemes, right? There's not a lot of strife between, like if we were to throw in, again, like the yellow tones with greens, right? So that elicits a kind of sick feeling inside of you. If you were to throw that in next to this, you'd feel like there's a strife of some sort. So you don't feel that with monochromatic. You feel sort of at ease. There's no warring colors, I guess you could say. The colors are not at war with each other. And The Matrix is a good example of monochromatic movie color schemes. And nearly every scene set within the world of The Matrix has a green hue. Shades of green permeate everything in the frame to create an unnatural lulling effect, representative of those asleep inside the Matrix. And I don't know about you guys, but have you ever gone to a park somewhere and they have a what is my son doing in there? I don't know what he's banging on. But if you go into a restroom that's in the park and it's lit with a fluorescent light, and you're sort of, you're at your campfire and you're relaxed and you hear the crickets chirping and everything's going great, and you're like, gotta go to the bathroom. So you go to the restroom and you go inside, and the walls are white, kind of like in this shot, and you get that green tone of the fluorescent lights. It's almost jarring, and you can feel it when you go in there, like, oh, here I am back in the real world in this kind of unnatural lighting, and it just feels like a stark contrast. And that's really cool that you can use that in film. So complementary contrasting drama, i.e. warm versus cool. So here you can see we have like red tones, and then we have cool tones with the pillows. And I guess this is red and green. These are supposed to be complementary, which I guess they are. It's sort of like Christmas time, right? You have red and green, they kind of go together. So it says, for example, orange and blue are complementary colors commonly used in many blockbuster films. The dueling colors are often associated with conflict, whether internal or external. No matter the color selection, complementary colors combine warm and cool to produce a high contrast, vibrant tension in the film. So tension is a good way to put it. That's a good word to use. So Ron says, I remember when I was a kid, I saw the movie Blackula, and almost the entire film was in a green lit world. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Now let me ask you though, Ron, was that determined by the director of photography, or is that because of the degradation of the film? because a lot of those older films are like that. They kind of had that hue, a certain hue to them. And here we have complementary as well. And some of this looks really good to me. Like this one here, we have the warm tones against the cool tones in the background. And then this woman's hair is, of course, it's red. Her eyes are blue and the background's blue. So kind of really, everything kind of pops, doesn't it? And so Spastic says, triadic colors are my favorite because of the stark contrast, which doesn't apply to just children's books, but even horror. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to use for films. I mean, Ron says it was a new film at the time. It wasn't. Oh, it was intentional. Okay. I mean, it makes sense. And so analogous colors neighbor each other on the color wheel. Red and violet, yellow and lime green. Let me see here. Where's the color wheel? So like this one here would be analogous. Is that right? And I guess actually, so yeah, it would be a whole. So it'd be from yellow to green. But in this example, it's yellow to red, so you can go in either direction. This is something that I've not really understood myself very well, but it says here, since the colors don't have the contrast and tension of the complementary colors, they create an overall harmonious and soothing viewing experience. So analogous colors are easy to take advantage of in landscapes and exteriors, as they are often found in nature. One color can be chosen to dominate, a second to support, and a third along with blacks, whites, and gray tones to accent. So this one here, it almost looks like these newspapers really pop, and I guess that's intentional. And I'm wondering also if in this particular image, if so evidently this guy's like holed up in his cabin or his house or something, and he's got all these tabloids about the end of the world. And if I just scan over everything, so these here are popping out, and like Scandal is in white and black, and this one here is like Armageddon, and this one is like Be Thrown, Test Tube Daisy Dies. So I wonder if that's intentional, that they've left those white in order to pop out like that, because that would also be like a subliminal message, right? So you'd feel kind of uneasy about those, but here it says that it doesn't do that. It's more or less giving you a harmonious feeling. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. This is also analogous. Harmonious feeling. We have a tank in the background. Seems like it's a very tense scene where he's maybe trying to run across here and not get killed. Yeah. In context with that, I disagree with some of these, but I don't know. I guess the feeling would be calm, but at the same time, the scene itself is tense. So, yeah. I guess it really depends on how you want to use it. And Grandview says, which do you all think is better for lighting, regular desk lamps or softbox lights? Well, you can convert a desk lamp into a softbox light, actually, and vice versa. This depends. Really, it doesn't matter that much to me. Like if an LED light does the job, it works great on its own, then I'm fine with it. But if a halogen does the job, of course, like certain lights have if you want like a rim light. So, for example, here we have, let's say this is the president here at the podium. Well, actually, that's not really a good example. Where's a good example? I think they have any good rim light shots here. Well, this one would be pretty good. So the lipstick shot. So you notice that for this scene where she's putting on her lipstick, we have a very sharp rim light that you can see the outline of her upper lip and her chin down here. And then you can also see her finger also has that light on it, and it's very bright. So for really sharp lights, I like to use halogen. That's just my personal preference. Everything else is up for grabs. Doesn't really matter. So here we have analogous. So we have from red to purple. So it's almost like monochromatic, right? But it has that complementary kind of color. So triadic, vibrant and colorful triadic colors are 3 colors arranged evenly spaced around the color wheel. Example, red, blue, and yellow. One color should be dominant and the others accented. So one dominant color and the others accented. Yeah, I think... so like with this one, what's the dominant color? Probably red. But it could also be blue, right? And with this one, obviously red, and then the accent is yellow. This one is, there's more red in there. But I don't think that, I don't think that's technically predetermined. I think that's just how it is, right? I mean, do you think they actually chose a red tie and then a red light shade and then red lettering to make that dominant? I don't really know. But one's going to be more dominant than the other just by, just the way it is. But it's something to think about. I never realized that. Yeah, Superman's outfit is triadic, isn't it? How about that? So we got red, yellow, and blue. And so Ron replies to Grandview and says, that depends upon the set's needs. Desk lamps give you stark, direct light, but a soft light box gives you a diffused light with soft shadows. Yeah. I mean, I could tell you one of the reasons that, one of the things that they did at Wolverton Studios was to use a lot of soft lighting. And you can do it by bouncing a harsh light off of just a white card. Or you can use diffusion gels. Doesn't really matter. But they would use it a lot of times to hide things like fingerprints on clay characters that you sculpt. So like in that instance, yeah, I would go with the soft lighting for sure. Diffused lighting. Some people use like parchment paper because it's got a bit of it can resist heat a little bit better than plain paper. So Ron says red is virtually always the outstanding color. In Schindler's List, the one color element in the entire film was a girl wearing a red coat. Oh yeah. I forgot about that scene. That's a good film too. So discordant movie color palette. Discordance is a deliberate choice by the director to deviate from the balanced movie color schemes mentioned above. To refocus attention, discordant colors can help a character, detail, or moment stand out from the rest of the film, just like what Ron was saying. For example, blue in Emilie, or red in The Sixth Sense. So here are the examples. So we have a blue light shade and everything else is red. I guess everything, including her book, is blue, and she kind of pops out as a, peachy color. I guess what is going on here, really? I don't see any. I mean, aside from the bag itself, that's the only thing that's popping out to me here. And then here we have, again, a blue lampshade, or blue lamp. Kind of interesting. So it really draws your attention. And here we have Pleasantville. And here's the Schindler's List example that Ron gave. I mean, that's really a dramatic scene too, and it's interesting how Steven Spielberg chose that, just to really accent, this girl's innocence and put your focus completely on her, so she's not lost in the scene. And then we have here Sin City, which has this yellow paint. And here we have, this, one doorknob which is red in the scene, and it's kind of glowing. So I think that, like the main reason for that is just to really draw your attention in. Yeah, I mean, that's there's so many cool ways you can use color. So, enhancing the symbolism in your film color palette. Associative. When a recurring film palette or color represents a character in a larger theme in a film, it's associative. So, associating colors in the background with the character itself would give maybe a certain feel. So, yeah, I guess if you're the Joker and you're always wearing purple, and then Batman stumbles into a secret place and it has smiley faces everywhere and purple walls, well, you might feel foreboding if you see that, because it's associated with the Joker. So I guess that would be an example. But The Godfather, so it looks like they've done something here associated with death. I guess in all these scenes before someone is killed, there's oranges. I have not watched The Godfather. I've never seen it. I should probably watch that film. I know it's a classic. And Ron says the symbolism in Schindler's List was to show that Schindler began to see Jews as individual human beings and not as a group that was easy to hate. Very interesting. Here we have Kill Bill. So, okay, so we have Empire Strikes Back. Vader is black. Evil is red. Good is blue. And Luke is white. So we have, well, technically he's not. He's tan. His clothes are tan. but I get what they're saying. So they're kind of contrasting the colors here. So in the entire scene, we have sort of a theme of contrasting. We have orange and blue. Orange is closer to Vader. The blue background here is closer to Luke. And then we have here complementary character associative. So this woman here is wearing the sort of turquoise green, and maybe where she lives has green lighting, and then here, or maybe where he is, everything's red. Not entirely sure there. So we're almost at the end here. So we've got the last one is transitional. So when a transformation in a story, character, or theme is conveyed through a shifting color scheme, it's transitional. So transitional colors in film. When a color scheme shifts over the course of the film, it represents a change in the story's characters, story, or themes, a transformation. So when I guess here this character would be getting into a worse situation and everything becomes drab. Transition colors from Tokyo Drifter, I guess. Not entirely sure, but I guess things are looking brighter for him, maybe. Luke Skywalker transitioning his outfit colors maybe to white and pure to someone who's more seasoned and been through some battles, things. And then Up, which shows bright and happy, and then the guy gets old, and Everything's drab again. So that's pretty interesting, right? And then Ron says in Star Wars, films are planned entirely around colors. In Rogue One, Vader's big scene was entirely lit by his lightsaber as the one red light source. Yes, I love that scene. That's one of my favorite Star Wars films. Rogue One is really well done, and wow, I mean, the Vader scenes in that, absolutely just, you really felt like he was really evil, more so than any other film. And Spastic Pug is saying, I need to look into diffused lighting. These flat colors would suit my cartoony style way better than my harsh lamps. Yeah, I mean, for sure, if you're going for a cartoony effect, diffusion might help, sure. Because cartoons are really not, there's not a lot of dimension to them, like in terms of shadows and things. So if you have a 3D character and you're using diffusion, it would be more associated with cartoons, sure. All right, well, that's it for this. So if you guys are interested, again, I would definitely, bookmark this page. It's just called How to Use Color in Film, 50 plus examples of movie color palettes. And they've got these videos too, which I haven't shown, which are helpful. And you can also click on the pictures, and you can even save these, if you want, for your reference. You've seen it 24 times. Wow. So obviously you love the film too, huh? It really is a great film. All right, guys. Well, anyway, it is past 9 o'clock, so that does wrap up our show for tonight. And so next week is gonna be feedback week. So if you guys want to get involved, what we do is we will show everybody's films or projects or sketches or whatever you have. Click on the feedback week icon here, the link, and then there's a link right here that says post your work in our forums right here. So this kind of gives you an overview of how to post pictures in case you don't know or haven't done it before. So that just kind of, you might want to just check that out and then click on the link. And so the top here says week number 7, but we're actually up to week 8. The reason that this is at the top is because I was the last person to make a post in there, and it puts the top, whatever is written about last will go to the top. So you want to click on week number 8 here, which is March 20th. Okay, click on that, and that's where you can leave your stuff. And Acting 23 did post on the previous feedback week forum thread. So what I did is I just moved it over to here so I can remember to show it. But feel free to post whatever you got, and we'll discuss it. And I will see you all next week. See you all later.